symptoms?
I haven't seen you in a while.
Jesus, a couple of weeks.
I was stuck in 13 years. Bad accidents up there on 13.
Oh my God.
I'm racing down. I see your cars. I'm looking at the cars. So what a treat to be here. I'm going to trade one more in this. In fact, Yes, he is. What a treat.
Phil Murphy.
How are you?
We just say a quick hello.
Chris. You should.
I'm not going to have a meeting in the neighborhood. Good morning. I'm James Baroud, the President and CEO of the New Jersey Tech Council. And as you know, the Council supports the technology, innovation, and entrepreneurial ecosystems across the state, in part through nurturing the tech and STEM talent pipeline and advocating for relevant public policies. In 2017, the Tech Council joined the Board of Advisors for what was then called the Research Asset Database. Our goal was to keep research dollars here in New Jersey by providing academics, entrepreneurs, and industry opportunities for collaboration and commercialization. The advisory board is composed of representatives from the state's research universities, as well as Hinge, NJBIA, Choose New Jersey, BioNJ, and the R&D Council of New Jersey. Of course, several folks, including my friends Haskell Berman, Melanie Willoughby, Rochelle Hendricks, and staff at the EDA, deserve special mention because they've been working on this for years. We're now realizing the result of their efforts. We deeply appreciate the chance to work with these groups, and we're excited to launch the database with the governor in our great state this morning. We're also thrilled to be here for the bill signing to reestablish the New Jersey Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology. Together, Research with New Jersey and the reestablished commission will strengthen ties between academia and industry and demonstrate that New Jersey's government is all in on growing the innovation economy. Every day we see that this state has the potential to lead the nation in the technological breakthroughs of the next generation products and services that will change our world. The governor's unwavering focus on supporting new companies and ideas is deeply welcome, and I'm excited to introduce him now. In a room, a league full of superhero collaborators, please welcome our superhero quarterback, Phil Murphy.
Jesus, Jim. Thanks, buddy. Please don't tell my kids that, please. They see this slightly differently. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jim, so much for your remarks and introduction. I also want to thank you for your leadership as the CEO of the New Jersey Technology Council. And all I could say is today, based on what we're about to do, you're about to get a lot of backup, a lot of help. It is a real pleasure to be here with my friend, Senator, Chairman, and Mayor Paul Sarlo, Assemblyman Andrew Zwicker. We'll hear from each of them in a few minutes, as we will from Michael Johnson, CEO and co-founder of Visicol, which is facilitating groundbreaking biotech work right here in New Jersey. A complete shameless commercial for Visicol there. You'll take it, right? We also have other, I'm going to introduce a couple of people who are here, but I'm going to run the risk that I will offend others who may not be referenced. But I want to say Assemblyman Krista Phillips and I, we were together in Little Falls a couple of days ago, and just keep those folks in your prayers. They have a long way to go to dig out. So, Chris, great being with you. Assemblyman Dan Benson, featuring the beard. I didn't recognize him, beside Assemblyman Joe Danielson, who's also featuring somewhat of a beard. Honored to have you guys with us. Mayor Womack, thank you for hosting us, as always, in your wonderful community. It's a real treat to be here today. Several members of our cabinet, Murderers Row here, Dr. Lamont Repollet, Commissioner of Education, Zakiya Smith-Ellis, Secretary of Higher Education, Rabah Sarah Angelo, our Commissioner of Labor, Tim Sullivan, who runs the Economic Development Authority, and the newest member of our team, just announced 2 days ago, in fact, our Chief Innovation Officer, Beth Novak. I love Beth in particular to stand up because she's new to the team. Beth has an extraordinary and distinguished career in academia, in government, in the private sector. She's worked on both sides of the Atlantic, and she's already making a huge difference in her early hours in New Jersey in the whole innovation space. I also want to give a shout out to the new, I guess technically interim, but I think he's going to be there for a while, and that's good news, a guy who's run a whole big chunk of Rutgers research in the STEM side of the house for a long time. The new Chancellor of Rutgers, Chris Malloy, is with us. Chris, you may want to stand up and take a bow. And to all the other distinguished folks, I see Sam Delgado is in from Verizon. Michelle Sakirka is here. Melanie Willoughby is on our team, and she's in the house, and many others. Thank you all. Welcome, everybody, to the Biotechnology Development Center, part of EDA's ever-expanding tech ecosystem support, as we take another big step, actually 2 steps, to restoring New Jersey's prominence and leadership in the innovation economy. The first step is the reestablishment of the New Jersey Commission on Science, Technology, and Innovation to further promote New Jersey as a home for academic and technological research, development, and commercialization. That's a big deal. The second step's also a big deal, is the formal launch, although it was kind of pre-launched in Boston a couple of months ago at a big bio conference, the formal launch of the web portal Research with NJ, to bring together our world-class institutions of higher education with world-class entrepreneurs and researchers. A stronger New Jersey is going to be built on the back of innovation, and it will be companies like Visicol, buttressed by the New Jersey Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology, and connected through Research with NJ, that will carry us forward. In 1985, a dear friend, a guy who's been a mentor to me, Governor Tom Kean, created the New Jersey Commission on Science and Technology, 1985. As he said then, and I quote Governor Kean, "Putting high-tech facilities in our New Jersey universities and leading centers will ensure a high-tech workforce that's second to none," end of quote. Those words ring true to the letter even 33 years on. Unfortunately, some of our progress was stopped in 2010 when the commission was defunded and became non-operational. New Jersey saw its dominance, not only because of this, but there were a number of factors, but we saw our dominance in the innovation economy eroded, even as competitor states like California, Massachusetts, Virginia, and New York, to name just a few, began their efforts to attract the companies and capital that once would have looked at New Jersey and nowhere else. Today, we're getting back to our core mission of making New Jersey the home for cutting-edge research and innovation that improves and saves lives, creates good jobs, and changes our world for the better. The reestablished New Jersey Commission on Science, Technology, and Innovation will be one of the drivers, one of the key drivers of this mission. And I'm particularly excited that this commission will also establish a separate innovation council from within its membership to facilitate the transfer of technology between public and private research. Public and private research, by the way, institutions of higher education and industry, and I hope even various federal agencies. Few people in the legislature know the importance of this better than the Assemblyman Andrew Zwicker, who spends his days working on the cutting edge of research, as I used to do, at Princeton's Plasma Physics Laboratory.
Over here.
That's not true. That's not true. I don't know who put that in there. I'm honored to have him here as a bill sponsor. And it is Senator Paul Sarlo. As we've discussed before, there are few places better positioned in this country to benefit from the innovation economy than North New Jersey. I was at the ribbon cutting with Paul and others at the new Hackensack Meridian School of medicine at Seton Hall University, which straddles not just 2 communities, but 2 counties, which is hard to do. That is going to be the anchor of the On3 Center in Nutley in particular, on the Nutley side of the campus, where the life sciences, research, and technology will all converge. To each of you guys, thank you for your leadership and friendship. I also want to thank the other sponsors of the bill. Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin, in absentia, Assemblyman Krista Phillips, Assemblyman Dan Benson, who are here, as well as Senator Bob Singer. I also want to acknowledge former Assemblyman Tim Eustace, who was a sponsor prior to his leaving the legislature this past spring. While the Commission will help get New Jersey-based technology out into the world, the new researchwithnj.com database, that's researchwithnj.com database, will bring leading researchers into our state to create collaborative partnerships with our world-class institutions of higher education, certainly Rutgers at the top of the list. Today, the database is launching as a pilot initiative featuring more than 3,000 faculty profiles across 5 schools: Princeton, Rutgers, NJIT, Rowan, and Stevens Institute of Technology. And soon, maybe even today, not today, but soon, Montclair State University will be added to Research with NJ's roster. Again, it's Rutgers, Princeton, NJIT, Rowan, Stevens, and soon Montclair State. I congratulate the Economic Development Authority and the Office of the Secretary of Higher Education for their work to get this portal online. As I mentioned, it was previewed a couple of months ago to rave reviews. I further thank the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, Choose New Jersey, BioNJ, the Healthcare Institute of New Jersey, the Research and Development Council of New Jersey, and the New Jersey Tech Council for their leadership and efforts to create this new tool. Research with NJ, as I mentioned, premiered earlier this summer at the Bio International Conference in Boston. Now, instead of watching research dollars going elsewhere, New Jersey is going to start bringing them back. We know New Jersey has everything right here to lead in the innovation economy. We have unmatchable people. We have an unmatchable location. And we have unmatchable spirit. And if you look at the math, in particular, if Research with NJ is directed explicitly at deepening the research connections between higher education and real economy, private sector participation. And if you look at funded research in higher ed by the private sector, we've allowed that to erode to 3-point-something percent. The national average is 5-point-something percent. And that includes a lot of states that don't do this terribly well. We want to be way above. We want to lead the nation, not just be above the national average. So we know we've got all that it takes. Jim knows this. Andrew and Paul and Chris and Dan and Joe and the other representatives here, they all know this. Beth certainly knows this. That's why she's here. And again, we're thrilled to have her. And Michael Johnson knows this. The idea for Visicol, which provides 3-dimensional digital image analysis and advanced optical imaging to clients in the life sciences and pharmaceutical industries, grew out of Michael's own research work while pursuing his PhD in applied microbiology just a few miles from here at Rutgers University. Today, Michael is leading a cutting-edge New Jersey company based in New Jersey in White House Station. It is now my pleasure to introduce the CEO and co-founder of Visicol, Michael Johnson.
So first off, I want to thank Governor Murphy for the opportunity to speak today to you. My name is Dr. Michael Johnson. I am the CEO and co-founder of Visicol, and our company, like Governor Murphy mentioned, is focused on helping pharmaceutical companies accelerate the development of new therapeutics through using tools in the computer vision, machine learning, and advanced drug discovery space. Now, in 2012, our company was sitting about 1,000 yards from here at Rutgers University. It was an idea in a closet at Rutgers. And over about 5 years at Rutgers, during my PhD work and during my co-founder's PhD work, we were able to foster this company at Rutgers through the help of great advisors, great mentors, and ultimately great resources at Rutgers. And in 2016, through the help of the Tech Transfer Office at Rutgers, through the Foundation Venture Capital Group here in New Jersey, we were able to spin out this company from an idea at Rutgers to a 3-person company. Since 2016, we've grown from 3 people to 12 employees in White House, New Jersey. We're employing highly skilled researchers, PhDs, master's degrees, and computer scientists, and we're helping pharma companies get drugs to market more quickly. Now, there's this myth of the entrepreneur who's pulling themselves up by the bootstraps all by themselves and willing their startup into existence. And this really is not the case at all. It takes a community, it takes an ecosystem, it takes lots of people. As a founder of a company, I have no background in business, finance, accounting. We brought those expertise into our company through finding people in the community in New Jersey to help us, finding investors to grow our company, and finding individuals who had those expertise which we did not have on our team. So that's why I'm incredibly excited to see the Research with NJ initiative coming out. It's hard to start a startup. You need help. You need folks in the community, and you need a strong ecosystem, not only for investors, but for resources from other universities who have something that you don't have. It's very hard to take an idea from the back of a napkin to a commercial product, and you need help along the way. So additionally, I'm very excited as well on the Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology being reestablished. This is a very important program. In New Jersey, we have great intellectual property at our state universities. We have lots of federal funding coming in to support the development of new intellectual property. But we need more help to get these ideas from universities, from researchers out into the marketplace. So I'm incredibly excited for these opportunities, and I'm very privileged to be in this state and working on a great technology in a state where we have great resources. I'm excited to see where things go, and I appreciate the work you're already doing so far. So thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Well done. Michael, really impressive. I just said to Jim, this is a big day for the home team. And I think we're going to look back on today and say, you know, we moved the needle meaningfully. I mentioned him earlier. He's been a driver of this initiative in the Senate. He's the chair of the Budget Committee, so needless to say, we spent a lot of time together this year. He's the mayor of Woodridge. He is a leader in the private sector himself in his day job. He's a baseball fanatic, and he's my friend, Senator Paul Sarlo.
Thank you, Governor, for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. As an engineer with a math and science and research background, anytime I walk into a facility like this, of course I get excited. And Governor, as my wife always reminds me, I can have all the fancy titles of the world, mayor, senator, chairman, but never give up the engineer title. That's the one that actually pays the bills. So I'll never give up the title of engineer. She always reminds me of that as I go out the door. So it was May. It was May. Stevens had just finished, and we were together here back in May, a few months ago, up at Stevens in Hoboken, when the governor came out in support of this commission and putting this commission back in place, a commission that we stopped funding back in 2010. And as you could see, the bipartisan support, Assemblyman Phillips here and all of our colleagues in the Assembly, the Bipartisan Support Center Singer in the Senate with me, all of our great institutions here. I'm going to give a shout out to my alma mater, NJIT, which is here, and all of the great research and engineering institutions we have in the state of New Jersey, and the business community for getting behind this initiative. As the governor mentioned, as we deal with legacy budgetary problems in the state of New Jersey, one way to deal with that is by growing the economy. And the innovation economy is one great way of working our way out of legacy budgetary problems by making an investment and bringing folks and the talented folks like we just heard here, and growing a company from 1 to 2 folks to 10 to 15 folks, researchers coming together in space like this and other spaces around the state of New Jersey. That's what we need to do. That's how we will grow our economy. That's how we will become a leader, not just in the Northeast, but throughout this country on our next generation of scientists and mathematicians and engineers. So I'm excited to be here. It was unfortunate it took us so long, but we have a governor behind us who believes in us and believes in this economy, believes in investing in the innovation economy. His cabinet believes in it, and I know there's members of the legislature on both sides of the aisle who believe in it as well. So Thank you, and I look forward to seeing this piece of legislation get signed into law.
Thank you, Paul. Well done. I'm considering asking your wife's permission to see if you could apply your engineering trade over at NJ Transit for a couple of months. Help us keep the trains running on time. Another guy who lives this, and I mentioned his day job earlier, nobody understands the STEM economy in an elected position. And by the way, we've got probably one and two here. As Paul said, he's an engineer and mathematician by training. But Andrew Zwicker lives in this. And the fact that he chose a few years ago to, in addition to his demanding day job, in the depth of his involvement in the innovation economy, the fact that he chose to raise his hand and jump into the pool of public service and represent his district so meaningfully and with such distinction, and then have such an impact on the innovation economy in such a short amount of time. It's really one of those things you look up and say, that's the way it should be more often than life. So it's my honor to ask to come on up to say a few words, Assemblyman Andrew Zwicker.
Thank you, Governor. I guess I should say thank you to the newest employee of the Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory, it sounds like. Do you want to lecture on plasma physics?
I have a PowerPoint presentation.
All right. About a little more than 6 months ago, the Speaker of the General Assembly created a new standing committee, one that hadn't been created. We hadn't had one for several years, called Science, Innovation, and Technology Committee. And I was fortunate enough to be named as chair. And it was because the Speaker also understood very much the value of innovation to driving our economic development here in New Jersey. On February 1 of this year, we had our first hearing. And many of the people, many of the advocates, were in the room for that first hearing. And it was packed. And there were three messages that came out. The first message, because so many people like Jim and the people who are in this room have been working for so long, was simply thank you. A thank you for the fact that, again, the state is focusing on innovation. The next thing that came out loud and clear was to bring back what was then called the Science and Technology Commission. And we did that, and here we are 6 months later and about to sign the bill to make it into law. And as we did that, one of the things that I wanted to make sure, because of its importance, is that when you talk about science and technology, if you don't have innovation, then it really won't work. And so I'm thrilled to the fact that we now have a new Chief Innovation Officer here, working with the EDA, working with both higher ed and with the Department of Education to develop this innovation economy. And the last thing that came out during this was really a need to promote New Jersey as an innovation state. You know, we already are the Garden State, and what came out during that was we're the Garden State where ideas come to grow, where entrepreneurs come to grow, where businesses come to grow. And so today, and this bill signing and the bringing back the commission really marks a next step in so many different people who have been working so hard to bring innovation back forward, as the governor said, here into the state. So I'm just completely thrilled that we're here signing it. When we go back into the fall, the next of our back in the session in the fall, the next thing to do will be to start to build out that ecosystem throughout the state. We have a lot of work to do, but let's get it started. So thank you so very much.
Well done. Well, I think we'll take a couple of questions before we sign it. Does that work? Anybody? Michael, how are you?
Good, Governor.
Nice to see you.
But before this morning, I didn't know it disappeared. Did you say it was defunded? Did it continue to exist without as much funding?
It was defunded. Was it disbanded as well?
It was zero funded out. So at
Come on
that
in,
point,
come in. Yep.
so Michael, it was line item vetoed out in 2010, as the governor said, and then at that point, there was nothing. There was nothing for it to do, so it just sort of fell apart.
So if the person who's going to run it,
It has not been populated, so we will populate it. It's very specifically stipulated in the legislature, and we support that. There's a few of folks who come in from me and my office, from the Senate President, from the Speaker, ex officio members of Cabinet. There's a whole, and I think an early priority, as Andrew was talking to our team about earlier today, is it's got funding associated with it. It's not a ton of funding, but it's funding, $1 million. And so I think an executive director to actually run this thing day in and day out is a high priority. We have a number of commissions, not to get off the track, and I won't, but we have a number of commissions which actually still exist in name, but they got defunded, and they don't have any staffing, professional staffing, and this was one of the early ones. Please.
Do you have a timeline for when the committee will start and will be populated, and when this will become law?
It's going to become law in about 5 minutes. So that one I can answer, and it'll be populated, I think, expeditiously. I think we want to get this one up and running. This piece of the economy is incredibly, I mean, you're sick of me, sick of hearing me, but the innovation and infrastructure economies are the two that we've got to get right. And we think this is a big weapon in that respect. Please. I think we'll have a diversity in terms of where the people are coming from. My comment was about commissioners, not staffing. And it's too early to tell exactly who's going to be in what seats. But we want to make sure this is a 1 + 1 = 3 commission, which it has every right to be, where you've got a real, the diversity that can lead to some great results and great outcomes. Please. So this is a question about flooding. I mentioned Chris and I were together a couple of days in Little Falls. We're not out of the woods. We're still, I mean, it's a beautiful moment, but we're still in a lousy weather pattern here that we think, the experts, forget what I think, is going to go on for a number of more days, potentially into early, at least the weekend, maybe early week. We have a number of communities that have been brought to their knees. Little Falls is one. I'm going to be in Brick in the Greenbrier section, and I guess a day after tomorrow morning, going through there with our OEM folks. The federal, and there are other communities. Wall got clobbered. Wall Township got clobbered on Monday, I believe. There is a big high threshold for federal dollars, whether it's FEMA, whether it's Small Business Administration. We were able to be very creative and aggressive to achieve those levels post the multiple blizzards that we had in the power outages. So I don't know yet is the answer. It's too early to tell. But the key is right now, the minute something happens, is to communicate, to document, right? I got a mayor to my left here. You got to document whether it's an individual in their home, a small business. You know, we had a couple of examples in Little Falls. You had car dealerships where you had cars being thrown around like kids' toy blocks. So it's too long-winded way of saying too early to tell. Part of the reason why we proactively declared the state of emergency in the counties we declared yesterday morning was to grease the skids in that process and also allow us at the state level to much more proactively lean into the county OEMs. So the Office of Emergency Management, which is housed in the state police at the state level, dealing now aggressively and proactively with the county OEMs and in some cases local OEMs. So to be determined. Matt.
What should New Jerseyans take as you decide the first time to use your veto authority for the South Jersey board bans? And also the folks that reported on it, Gallup reported on it, spoke specifically about this having to do with speech. Can you just speak to that and so on?
Now, I would just say this, Matt, the letter that we submitted speaks for itself. It has nothing to do with the Senate President, period, full stop. I think folks should take from this, we've got a lot of different entities out there, a lot of agencies, a lot of authorities, populated by very serious boards, et cetera. But we have a say, and we had raised our hand and said, you know what, we don't like the procedure, the process that you're pursuing here, and you should know that, and gave them an ample opportunity to change that process in their direction. They chose not to, and we had told them right up front, if that's the path you take, then you got to do what you got to do. We got to do what we got to do. Please. No, go ahead.
So you have a lot of entities that already are looking at the innovation economy. You have EPA, which is here,
So it's a great question because one of the things we don't want to do is run into each other. And so far, so good, I have to say, knock on wood. For instance, Jose Lozano, who's the CEO of Choose New Jersey, is with us in the flesh today. Jose, honored to have you here. Jose has got a very specific, in his early days, and he's only been in for 6 weeks, he's got a very specific set of tasks that he is cracking the back of with his great board, I might add. One of which is we're planning a very tech-heavy, very commerce-heavy couple of official trips to Germany and Israel, to pick an example of what's on his front burner. I think the fact that this is legislated, that it's the law, that these folks and their colleagues led this, and that I'm going to put my name on it, puts this into a little bit more of a different, maybe perhaps special category. But the notion of coordinating all of these entities, Beth and her new capacity is another example. Jim and the great work that he does. BioNJ, we mentioned earlier, Michelle and her team. I think it's up to us to make sure we orchestrate this in a way that we're not bumping into each other. We think there's plenty of space. Yeah, the challenging news is let's not bump into each other. The good news is the cupboard was bare. And I don't speak for some of the great organizations like the Tech Council or BioNJ, but this, as to Michael's question, this had gone dormant. What Jose is doing right now, we were not focusing on. What Tim is doing with incubators and EDA, we just were not doing. The connection between higher ed and what Zakiya is doing in the higher ed research into the real economy, it just wasn't being done. So the good news is we want to be careful we don't run into each other. The good news is there's plenty of open space. Maybe one or two more here. Michael?
The research base that you mentioned.
Yes.
Just hold 30 seconds.
Yeah, I promise you.
Any other cameras on?
Come on up, folks. Speed that up. That's not bad. It's going to stick. Okay, there's the money shot. Small list. Paul, congratulations. Andrew? All right, man. Congratulations. Thank you. Well done, man. Congratulations so much. Thank you, folks. Oh, Dan. Got one. Dan Benson. In the house. Congratulations. We got the top. This is now the law of the land. All right. Yeah.